you're carrying over the baggage. You know, first marriages, statistically, what I've dealt with is 3, 7, 14, 21 are the years that first marriages divorce. Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Hey, welcome back to Coach Soul. I am so happy it is spring, Kenya, and this is the month that, it's Easter coming up, and we have family celebrations and get-togethers. I just love Easter because my yard becomes Christmas, meaning that all these flowers stop popping up and they go from about March to about October, November. So it has a display of array of colors. And that is my Christmas for me because I love flowers. I love springtime and just how it pops. And it just becomes a family, a blended family of color.
What an introduction for what we're going to talk today. I love spring too, Steve. It's by far the most visual reset by God that life sprouts. The renewed of season, the renewed, in Brazil, since we don't have the winter the way we have here in America, I have never seen a tree that looks dead. It's totally dry. And then suddenly it flourishes. And flowers come in, then leaves come in. I was like, what's going on here? It's the most beautiful thing. And I am really excited to share a piece of you that goes much deeper than our listeners are used to. Steve has spent the last few years, please refresh my brain, how many years exactly doing your research?
This is the third year that I'm completing the dissertation. The research is finally done, but the dynamics that go into the dissertation, because it's a doctorate's degree in blended families. It's family. Actually, the degree is a community care counseling degree, a doctorate's degree with emphasis of family and marriage. But because of my personal experience with being divorced and remarried and being in blended family,
correct,
it just gives me more of an edge. And
yes.
So I was curious as to what causes 65% high divorce rates in blended families. So it's taken me, at least 3 years to get to the education and then writing the research.
That's amazing. I knew it has been a while. I just didn't know it has been, I was between 2 and 3 years. And I love that you already brushed it off your whys, right? Steve is someone that moves from a place of integrity. And I love that I have witnessed you grow. I have witnessed you embrace your path, embrace your story. And now you are ready to give back. You're ready to give back and you have a book coming up on blended families, and you have a name change coming up as soon as your dissertation is complete from Steve Hudgins to Dr. Steve H. And for me, nothing changes, but I love that you have the doctor because you earned it, Steve. You earned it. So this is my acknowledgement and my congratulations for all the places you have been. This podcast today, I would love for you to walk me through what do you think that causes this higher percentage of separation, of divorce on blended families. What is the why?
It's interesting because out of the people that I research, it's a qualitative hermeneutical, phenomenological, which is, I know it's a lot of words.
Sure.
That's hard to say 3 times fast.
Sure.
But the research that I'm doing has not been done A hermeneutical, meaning it's an interpretation of the data. And qualitative is more about looking at what is the lived experience of blended families. Well, what started this is I've always heard 65% divorce rate, but
That's
nobody can
super high.
document. Right.
That's
Nobody can
super
document.
high. It's outrageously high.
Correct. 1990s was the last date that was ever recorded as 65% divorce rate. The states were given the authority to continue to track it, but there was no money in the funding. So the last we heard was 65%, and this is the 90s. Now, let's fast forward. Now we're in an era where we have more single people cohabitating and so forth because of what divorce has done to the family.
Yeah.
Okay. So now fast forward, we have blended families, which has become the norm. When I think about the why, the number one, when I coded my transcripts of the participants that participated in my study, there were 20 coded references to communication. So communication breakdown is what happened in their situation. Number two was there was 18 coded messages of kids, children being the issue, whether it's step parents, bio parents, extended families that came together. They're arguing, those type of things. But the number one that I feel like was the issue, unresolved trauma has caused blended families divorce rate.
I want to raise my hand for that one.
Sure.
Because I'm married, as you know, going on almost 20 years. And anytime that my husband and I had any breakdown in our thoughts and feelings, actually, I'm going to speak for myself because he's not here. Anytime that I have, it was also a communication breakdown. It was kids getting in the way, our own kids. Like somehow we put the kids ahead and a hierarchy level, like putting them on top and us in the middle or even in the bottom. And 100%, it's all about the unresolved childhood trauma. So I haven't heard how is it different, a divorce, a regular divorce to a blended family divorce.
You're carrying over the baggage. You know, first marriages, statistically, what I've dealt with is 3, 7, 14, 21 are the years that first marriages divorce. Why? Well, 3 is your first kid. 7 is your second kid. 14, you're dealing with teenagers. 21, the kids are out, empty nest. But it's not really per se the children. What I've seen and what I've heard from the participants is that what can also occur in first marriages has also occurred in second, is that one spouse puts the children above the other one. Mm-hmm. So children become the priority and there's no intentionality within the marriage. So when you think about first marriages, yeah, you're all about your child.
Sure. But
sometimes mother instincts kick in and the children become first and the man feels neglected. Well, and then it's interesting because in the blended family participants, I have a mother-daughter that participated. I had a father-daughter that participated in the study. And it's interesting. Is it transgenerational? Monkey 100%. See, monkey do. Did we experience this and we bring this over? And so I did a blog last month because it was February, talking about dating and taking sabbaticals and making sure that we work on our trauma. So that when we think about communication breakdown, the breakdown stems from not being heard. I had a couple that I was talking to and they got in an argument over socks. And it caused a huge breakdown. They didn't even celebrate their 15th anniversary, and they didn't do Valentine's Day. over socks. And that's a way to sock it to each other, no pun intended. But it's that communication breakdown to where, are we really listening? Or are we hurrying up to speak so that we can get our point made? I've got another couple who, they like to sling poo. And I said, I'm tired of being in the middle. It's starting to stink. And I put my head in my hand and I just sat there, and they finally got the hint. And I said, what am I here for? So that communication breakdown is due to the childhood trauma that we're not hearing.
So Steve, based on your book of clienteles and your research, please draw a bridge. This is what happened. This is why. Got it. Number 1, 2, 3. Got it. How can we do better as humans when we say that we want a new relationship, or when we say we want to continue our existing one healthy and committed and good for everyone? Grow old together. Isn't it the dream to grow old together, or to grow period, to grow wise together, to do life?
But hear what you just said. How can we do better when we do what? Look, that's the key thing. We haven't learned how to love and accept who we are without judgment. Because when we're unhappy, we're always seeking for other things to make us happy. And when we don't feel heard, it gets projected onto the other person where you're the problem. If we can start learning how to accept ourselves, extract the splinters that comes into our life. And what I call splinters is the triggers. I don't like the word trigger. I like the word splinter, because something went into us and it hurts. When we use therapy, it comes out. It hurts. So it's learning not to be afraid of what went in and not to be afraid of what comes out. Now, oftentimes we have a hole that might be big because that splinter was big, but it's what do we do to fill in that space? I believe that if we start learning how to love ourselves, addressing the childhood hurt trauma, and being able to start giving, not wanting to receive. It's okay to receive, but not all the time. But to give in such a way that we're not expecting anything back on conditional basis. How many relationships have we entered that's been conditional? So
in your research, Steve, with the families and the people that you study in the study, what were they saying? Because you see, when I say, how can I do better? I generally feel like, okay, my awareness itself help. I mean, we talk so much in this podcast about self-love and going deeper and taking personal responsibility and all the things. And again, I'm talking about them in the study. What did you find that they feel like, wow, is that seeing it that makes it better? Is that accepting themselves? What do they know? Do they know to accept themselves? Or the fingers are still pointing like it was he or she, it was they, it was mom, it was dad. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, it's a little bit of mix. Mm-hmm. When you look at the perspectives of, what these participants have been through, it's a little bit of a mix. A participant named Jana, when we're talking about the hurts and traumas that they went through, because that was a theme that came out.
Yep. She
says, I carried so much baggage from my first marriage into my second. Tiffany said, I didn't realize how much my childhood trauma shaped my reactions until it was too late. Vicky said, past betrayals made it difficult for me to trust, and that slowly eroded my second marriage. And, when you continue to look at the unresolved traumas, Janice said, I carried so much baggage from my first marriage into my second. And so it becomes repeated patterns.
Of course.
That James said, I kept making the same mistakes because I never healed properly. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting that it's hindsight that we begin to realize that we need to heal. Mm-hmm. That's why I say take a sabbatical. But I, in talking with another client that I'm working with, I never thought about it this approach. I've been teaching an addictions class through Rogers State University and here in Oklahoma. And I never thought about teaching, but I learned so much through teaching. When I was going through my cancer, one of my friends had told me that I have an addiction. I do? She goes, yeah, it's an addiction to relationships. And ouch. I paused. Okay. And I reflected. And she was right. She was right. Because I didn't properly heal myself, that I felt better being in a relationship, that I didn't process my childhood hurts and wounds. So when I became a therapist in 2012, I started healing on the path or journey. And when the spouse that I had, my health went wonky, the 34% chance of cancer and other things that came about, here I am being single. So I've been on a path since 2017 and being confident and being able to have secure attachment. Here's the thing. Can we allow people to change and forgive in that change? Because oftentimes I heard my clients say, well, I don't know if I can forgive him. I don't know if I can trust him again.
Yeah. I
get it. But are they making changes? Yeah. Can you see the changes? Yes. It's scary, isn't it? Yes. But I think if we just give ourselves patience, give the other person patience, that Kenya, I know you have childhood hurt wounds. And I don't need to assign meaning behind your emotions as a male. That if you're upset with me, I need to say, "Whoa, okay, let's talk about it." But when we're hurt,
yes, I want to address our listeners. Yes, Steve knows a lot of stories, and many stories that I share here. And if you're human listening to this, you have childhood trauma. It's not a handful of people or two hands full of people. It's every single one of us carries a booklet of blessings and gifts and things that you acknowledge. Wow, this was amazing. I want more of this, please. And you also carry a booklet of, I don't want to talk about it. Avoidant. It didn't happen. Or maybe you're not avoiding. You are aware and you're working on it, and you have a coach and you are in therapy and and I just want to raise my hand and say that as long as you acknowledge that there's places in you that there's asking for the light, that is asking for attention, that is asking for love, that is asking for acceptance, that place no one else can fulfill. Come on, Steve. No one else, no marriage, no kids, no best friend, no one. Is you and God. That's it.
What I found is that there's shame and guilt because we feel like a failure. That's what I hear from my participants, because here I go again, another marriage that's failed.
It must be me.
It must be me.
Something is wrong with me.
Right.
And all those voices.
And the what happens that I've noticed too is that oftentimes divorces happen because we poison our water. We go off and
Tell more about that.
Yeah. So what I mean by poisoning the water is that I try to tell my clients a lot of times, if you're mad, don't go immediately to your parents or mom, dad, best friend, whatever, and just rag on what just happened. I know you're upset, but you just poison the water. Because what happens is we get blindsided into the toxicity. Well, he's a no good son of a you know what. And we start believing in the messages of our friends and parents that we don't get to see the change in our partner. Or that partner didn't really mean what happened. It was a misunderstanding. Now you got to go back and eat crow, so to speak, because you messed it all up. And then you got a tainted mess to where Now your family and friends are not believing you. Now, granted, if somebody is a toxic person that's in, that's in substance abuse, get out of the relationship. If somebody, is abusive, get out of the relationship.
If you're any kind of danger, any kind of abuse, this is not for you to say, I'll be patient. It will change.
So
no,
I want to talk a little bit about that too, because when you have unresolved childhood trauma, right? We need to look at several factors. I've got a guy that sat in my office and he says, yeah, she threw something and cut open my ear. And then she started pushing me.
Mm.
And I hear clients on the other side, well, he did this. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute here. Abusive relationships means that they're pounding you all the time, diminishing you. What has happened here is, can that be classified as domestic violence? It can. But here's my question. At what point did it get so elevated that person felt like they didn't get heard and had to cause some type of reaction to get noticed?
There we go.
There's a difference between domestic violence and somebody needing to be heard. I got a client that he was so, he had to yell in my session because she was cutting him off. And men just want to be heard. But I understand the relationship's reversed. She operates on a masculine point of logic. He operates on the feminine side of emotion. So she wants A to B. He goes A, F, G, back to Z, up to A. So it's that female story of emotion that he wants to express, but doesn't not able to be heard.
May I add something to
Sure.
this? It's very interesting when you see a woman that she's clearly feminine in her essence, but she shows up in her masculine, and then immediately her man shifts.
Yes.
Do you know why that happens, Steve? Because they actually really want to be together.
Yeah, they do.
And subconsciously, in order to create polarity, because only relationship can survive with polarity. So if you're plus, somebody needs to be negative. And if you're negative, it needs to be plus. If that relationship was, it was poison already to not survive, he would look at her and say, nope, I'm the man. Bye.
He's tried that.
Do you see what I'm saying? Well, what I'm saying is what I'm saying is he wants to be with her. He's doing everything he can to be with her, including shifting in polarity to see if it works. But it will never work because it's not our essence. We both did this program about authenticity. It's not authentic. It doesn't come from an energy of integrity. And I want to speak with all the ladies right then that feels like they need to be the man and wear the pants and castrate their mate. It's all the same root of the trauma of I need to have the control, because if I don't have the control, I'm not safe. I will be in danger. I will not be protected. And it's a shadow because no one has the control. No one has the control of anything. Only God knows what's happening the next minute. Do you see what I'm saying? Control is one of those things that you might have the schedule, you might have things, and then curveball. You gotta know how to shift.
Well, and that's the thing. How can you shift when they both operate from severe trauma from their past?
Hug. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. The only thing that has helped the people that I work with when it's in this chaotic energetic, and by the way, when they're in this chaotic energy, do they want to hug each other? Do they want to hug each other? Answer the question.
Oh yeah,
really.
they do. But is it out of survival mode, or is it unconditional love they hug?
What I'm saying is, when they are spinning, nobody wants to hug because it's like, if you can imagine,
right?
Do you see what I'm saying? it actually pulls it apart. But the thing that would be most healing and magnetic to the inner child, it's to feel safe.
Correct.
What does a mother do when a child doesn't feel safe? Come here, sit in my lap and tie them up.
Right.
So note to self, ladies, allow him in. It might be the biggest healing, the exhale moment that your inner child is craving to feel safe. Or maybe it's not him. It's allow this version of you here. If you want your marriage, number 1, to survive, or number 2, or number 3, or whatever number you're at, if you want any relationship, allow the whole person in. If you want it to be a whole person too, or else they will keep repeating the same patterns and you'll be walking in eggshells, not really feeling safe to show all the colors of you.
You know, I hate to do it. We're at that moment. We got to cut it. But it's a great segue to continue to talk about, because April is Easter.
That's right.
And a lot of times it brings families together to celebrate. A lot of people just go to church because it's Easter. The thing about it is can we be authentic and be okay with what has happened? It doesn't define us.
Correct.
It only empowers us to do better and to elevate so that we can go around and win society be so much better. If we can start working on elevating the other person and stop trying to point out the flaws in the person, because it helps you to feel better. So loving, accepting means that I accept who I am, but I want to be better than where I've been. So until next time, take care and
so
God
much
bless.
love.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.